Hey there, welcome to Mountainside Tabletop. My name's Vic, and today I'm going to be painting up the brand new Goremongers kill team from the Kill Team Blood and Zeal box that's just come out. I have a lot of 40k armies. The World Eaters are my favorite one, the closest to my heart. I'm going to show you the rest of my army, talk about why I've painted them the way I have, some of the lore that's inspired that, and why I like them so much. So first off, I'm just going to show you my army so far so you can see the scheme and get an idea of what the vibe is for this project. Now, I've gone on record before to say that if Aaron Dembski-Bowden writes a book about a character, I'm probably going to end up painting it. His books always really bring this stuff to life for me, and so after reading Betrayer, I had no choice but to make my Kit Bash Karn the Betrayer here. With him, I've got my Heresy-era Master of Executions and a Blood Master, because I've got a lot of demons in this list. And then, like most World Eaters armies, I had to bring the big guy, and I've got Angron rounding out the sort of command center here. So next, on the human side of the army, I've got, a handful of squads of Berserkers, then a Lord on Juggernaut to tell them where to go, and a Land Raider to help them get there. And then, because even World Eaters need to score some objectives now and again, I've got some Jackals and Chaos Spawn. Then, on the demon side, I've got some Blood Crushers, my recently relegated to Legends Karanak. I refuse to participate in that. I'm going to keep using him because I like him. And then really what can only be described as a ton of Bloodletters. You might be thinking, hey, that's way more than you're legally allowed to take in a game. And you'd be absolutely right, but I really don't care. I love them. I think having a huge chunk of them is kind of hilarious and awesome. I keep telling myself I might play Age of Sigmar one day, who knows. But anyway, that's everything. And then I forgot to include them earlier because I keep them stored separately and, out of sight, out of mind. But I've got a Bloodthirster and a Helldrake rounding out my list. So this is a bit of a weird World Eaters list, I know. It doesn't win a lot of games, but I don't really care. I have so much fun with them. I really like the Heresy color scheme of the armor. I think not only is it like just a little bit different and a break from all the red, but I think it really contrasts nicely with all the red of the demons. Obviously, about half the minis I have here are Chaos Demons, and I really like the contrast of the white armor with all the red kind of scaly flesh. I think it's cool, and yeah, it's mine, and I'm happy with it. Before I get started, just want to take a minute to say thanks to Games Workshop for sending us this box ahead of time. We've had it for a couple weeks, and so been able to really play around with these minis, check them out on the Kill Team table, which I have to say they're extremely fun to play with. And yeah, now I'm kind of thinking about how else I can use them in my life. So now let's talk about these Goremongers. The steps that I use here are pretty much the same for the steps that I use for everything, except for, a few more armor panels on the Berserkers, but this is kind of generally it for this army. So the first thing, of course, is a black undercoat, just so I don't have to shade anything, and then kind of a heavy dry brush / overbrush of this Army Painter gunmetal over all the metallic bits, which on these models is quite a lot. I'm not too bothered about getting this on the wrong spots here. It's all going to be covered anyway, and these are like very, very weathered and very grimdark, so you're going to make mistakes, but there's lots of opportunity to cover them up as the project goes along. I can't wait to see how better painters than me handle these gore tanks. I can already tell that there will be some really cool paint jobs out there that have like kind of clear panels with flowing liquid inside that's going to look really good, but that is way over my head. Next, I just go around all the minis and pick out all the skin, of which there is quite a lot. It always really bugs me when I see a squad of just like cultists or humans or just like normal folks all with the same skin color. It seems a bit absurd. So what I do here is I use AK Dark Flesh as kind of the starting point. I'll add in a little bit of either Gory Red from Vallejo or AK Dark Rust with various levels of pale gray just to achieve a bunch of different skin tones here. Truthfully, I haven't found like an out-of-the-pot good skin color paint. Everything seems to take a lot of adjustment for me, so yeah, these are kind of the best I got, but the coverage is pretty bad here, obviously. This all looks pretty terrible, but you really got to just trust the process. I promise it will come together. Next, I'm picking out all their kind of combat pants with this Vallejo olive green. It's a pretty great paint that has awesome one-coat coverage, which is a real bonus for me because I do everything fast. And then I'm using AK Dark Rust to pick out a bunch of the leather stuff. Some of it I left black, some of it I covered with 2 coats of this. Just, you know, I think it's unlikely that these blood-crazed cultists would all have matching leather. I think there would be a lot of mismatched straps here, so I kind of left it pretty varied. And then I ran around and picked out some of the metallic bits with AK Gold. Not only do I think that this breaks up all the metal on the model pretty well, but also, you know, brass is so important in the sort of corn aesthetic a lot of the time. And so some of the more big obvious pieces, like the Blood Herald's ridiculous belt buckle and his mask, I made sure to paint gold just to kind of tie that all in a bit. Next is the skulls. As any World Eater player knows, you gotta have a good skull recipe because there's no shortage of them on these models. So mine is just pale gray by AK over everything first. I know the impulse is usually to do kind of like a bleached sepia tone skull. I find white is a better way to start. I'm gonna wash it down to kind of brown it up later, but it just gives me more options this way. Now I've got to incorporate some of that classic Heresy World Eaters blue. Obviously there's no power armor on these guys, and so I do kind of like the idea that their weapons are just like discarded Space Marine weapons or repurposed chain swords and chain axes. So I use the same blue as I do on my Berserkers, which is Vallejo Ultramarine Blue. While I'm going through this, I want to take a minute to say thanks a lot to the patrons of our channel. Without their support, couldn't be doing stuff like this, so thank you so much. We really appreciate your continued support. Had a bunch of new folks sign up lately, and so welcome, and hopefully you can come into the Discord and hang out a bit and chat. And yeah, thanks so much. And then I rolled up my coffee and lost, which is a drag, but you know, I was drinking it while I did this, so I thought I'd bring you all along on the adventure with me. Now this is my secret ingredient here. This Game Wash by Vallejo is really excellent stuff. It's pretty thick and nasty, so give it a good shake and a good stir to get some of the bubbles out, but it is really just atmosphere in a bottle. So, you know, sometimes I brush this on, but I'm just going, I'm going all out here. And so I'm doing a straight up dip. And then I just, you know, go around with a slightly damp brush, move some of the stuff around just to make sure there aren't any like major pools, because this stuff is thick enough that it'll dry like with a full layer of just it on top of everything, kind of obscuring everything if you're not careful. Unfortunately, the aspirants didn't fit because of their big stupid chain glaive, so I had to do them with a brush. Yeah, obviously this looks pretty terrible right now, but again, you gotta trust the process with this sort of painting. So while I'm waiting for that to fully dry, I just go over the tactical rocks and tactical rubble that they're all standing on with a quick dry brush of this pale gray color, since I've already got it on my palette. Some of the lighter skin tones I found really lacked definition, so I just went through with some Army Painter Dark Tone and some Reikland Fleshshade just to kind of give a bit more definition on the leather and some of the skin. I didn't do it on all of them, but just like some of them that really kind of lacked any shadow. And then next, I just dry brushed all the metal parts a little bit. Both the gold and silver stuff, I use the silver dry brush just to kind of bring some of the shine back to it and do a bit of a quick cheaty highlight. I love doing this. It always really helps get things towards the finish line and helps them look a lot more complete, and can really help give me the motivation to finish a project once I get to this stage. So next, while I'm kind of waiting for everything to dry before I start to do more weathering, I'm just going to throw down a layer of Lunar Desert. And then while that dries, I'm just going to go through and highlight some of the skin using a mixture of those 3 colors from before. You know, I'm not really doing like too much of a careful highlight here, but just bringing a bit more saturation and a bit more contrast to some of the upward facing areas. Really spending about 45 seconds per model here. This is like hardly a Golden Demon highlight. Now I'm just going to put some really thinned down Aeldari Emerald contrast paint over all the gold stuff. This is to kind of represent like an aged verdigris thing. You know, I've used dirty down verdigris in the past and some other products. They're good, but I find this one gives me the most flexibility and kind of it's the most forgivable and behaves the most like a paint. Because it is one. Now that the base is dry, I'll just give it a dry brush with the pale gray to bring out some of that texture. So let's talk about blood. I don't really use a lot of these kind of effects, but they're very important for this scheme. So there's a bit of lore in The Lost and the Damned that was like a really vivid picture for me when I was reading it, and it inspired me to start this army, and it inspired the scheme that I've painted them in. So while you watch me set up my Dexter kill room here and spray blood all over my freshly painted miniatures, I'm going to read you these 2 passages to give you an idea of what I'm going for. Angron howled. Horus's mortal army surged forwards over the carpet of dead, fronting the outworks and the walls. The first drop pods hit the ground among them, hatches blowing wide, bringing more Space Marines into the attack. Dreadclaw pods angled down at the walls, the dying Aegis destroyed some, others hit the fortifications and glanced off. More extended their claws at the right moment, catching the crenellations and holding fast. 2 landed close together, between Raldoron and his men, engaging the remnants of the Night Lords. World Eaters leapt from inside into the downpour of blood. When the World Eaters came loping from the fire with their chainswords and set about their grisly work, cutting down men and hacking skulls from the dead and living alike, he ran harder. One saw him and came springing after him, the mass of the legionaries' armor making the ground tremble even through the bombardment. Skulls bounced on chains from battle plate, whose white and blue livery was all but obscured by a thick coating of gore. So in this point in the story, everything has started to go very badly for the Imperium, and the skies open up with a torrential downpour of blood. It is so vividly described, the way that everything is covered in blood and the blood is interacting with all the rubble and dust. It's such a disgusting and vivid image that is repeated over and over through the end of this book, that it really inspired me to get this started. It's why I did the gray rubble bases and all the like dirt and blood mixed together. I think it's a really gross image, but Warhammer's a pretty gross setting. It was really just such a vivid and inspiring passage to read. Also, the blood paint I'm using here is a thinned down Slaughter Red Speedpaint by Army Painter. And then after I varnish it, I go back with a 50-50 mix of Slaughter Red and Gloss Varnish to do some kind of fresh wet blood on the edges of weapons and that sort of thing. And then after doing some base rims, they're done. So now an always extremely satisfying and exciting moment, adding them into the party. I think this is kind of the perfect unit for this army. I mean, I've got so many demons here, and these are right in the middle of human and demon. Obviously they don't have 40k rules yet, but I'll tell you, the kill team rules are awesome. If you want to check them out, we've got a battle report of them in action, and another one soon on the way. But, you know, I think we all expect them to be in the World Eaters Codex when it comes out, and, you know, power creep being what it is, I imagine they'll be pretty good. Like I said earlier, this army doesn't typically win games, but for those of you who care about that sort of thing, might be something you want to pick up. Who knows? Anyway, thanks for watching. Give us a like and a subscribe if you want to see more of this stuff, or if you're into Kill Team or any of the other stuff we do here. And, yeah, we'll see you in the next one.